Now we need receptors and we need a nerve that will conduct the nerve impulses into centers in the brain and then perceive it. People who don't hear very well, they blame others for not speaking loud enough, because they usually don't admit that they don't hear very well. Now, our knowledge as doctors to treat people, its baseline is reading the book and reading images. And then we need to find out more information. We need data management and we need discussion and analysis. Reading the book is not good enough. That's why we come to the university. You cannot treat people with summaries. Keep this in mind. Anyway, loss of hearing can be of different degrees. Some people cannot hear anything. Some people, they can hear 20, 30, 50%. And they ask people to repeat. And they do this, try to collect the sound waves. Some patients feel that their head is turning around the environment. Others feel that the environment is turning around them. All these are problems of balance. ليش متأخرين؟ ليش متأخرين؟ يا هانم أنت متأخرة. And there is the travel sickness. Probably you have heard of that. There is also the seasickness. When the balance is disturbed, people feel nausea and vomiting. We have problems with hearing and problems with balance. Some people hear sounds that are not real, and it is an annoying thing. Some people feel that they are talking to themselves. This image is telling me that it's the same person, but he can hear sounds from himself. And then there is tinnitus, feeling of continuous buzzing sounds. All sorts of things. Now, probably I've mentioned last time as well, if it is a little bit mild or at the beginning, شوف هاي الصبية دخلت من هالباب طالعة. Usually the patient comes and says, I have pain behind my eyes. If you hear this sentence, okay, check the ear. So what are these problems of balance and hearing? And it has a story. Now, the beginning of the story is like a cave underwater. The cave is a cavity inside the rock of a mountain, and it is filled with water. That is how the inner ear is carved into the petrous part of the temporal bone, and it is filled with fluid. In case of the cave, it is water. Now, this fluid is called perilymph. No receptors, no structures. Now, there are pipes under the water. This is a system of pipes inside the water, inside the perilymph. And this is what is called, in case of the ear, the membranous labyrinth. So we have a bony cave filled with perilymph. Inside this perilymph, there is a system of pipes. These pipes, they contain an endolymph, a fluid that has nothing to do with the perilymph. And these pipes, in case of the inner ear, they have different shapes according to function. And these pipes, in case of the inner ear, they contain the receptors. Receptors are hair cells. And hair cells, the cilia of the hair cells, they move only because the perilymph moves and the endolymph moves. So we need fluids. So the rock is the petrous part of the temporal bone. And you know what is the petrous part of the temporal bone. Now, the water in the cave is, in the inner ear, is called the perilymph. Peri means around, on the outside. And the door to the cave is the oval window. And we know that the oval window is attaching the foot of the stapes. So when the stapes moves, the foot of the stapes goes in, creates a wave. These are the parts of the inner ear. The middle one is the vestibule. This is the part which is going to receive the waves through the oval window by the stapes. And this snail-like structure is the cochlea. This is the organ of hearing. And these are semicircular canals that we balance with. عبد الرحيم أنت متأخر، أنت الCR. شو هذا الحكي؟ Okay. Now, these three parts, they contain perilymph and they contain membranous structures that contain endolymph. This is a drawing of the three parts of the inner ear. This is the cochlea, the hearing organ, And this is the vestibule, that is the middle part. And this vestibule, as a bony cave, has two sacs, two membranous sacs. Towards the semicircular canals, it is the utricle. And towards the cochlea, it is the saccule. And they are connected with a small canal between them. The yellow-colored structure contains perilymph. The green structures are membranous and they contain endolymph. These are the semicircular canals. Let's go to the real thing. Now, in the past, it was difficult to teach the inner ear because it depends on drawings. Now, with the CT scan, we can see the real thing. This triangle is telling me that this area is petrous part of temporal bone. Inside this green circle, it is an air-filled cavity, so it must be the middle ear. And I can see here the cochlea, snail-like structure. And then in the middle of the cochlea, there is a bony column called the modulus. I'm going to show you that later on. Then we have this cavity, which is in the middle, and this is the vestibule with the oval window attached to it. And then we have semicircular canals. So the three parts of the inner ear are arranged in this way. The cochlea is anterior, the vestibule is in the middle, and the semicircular canals are posterior. So let's write down what these images are telling me. It is a labyrinthine cavity divided into three cavities, semicircular canals, three of them, a vestibule in the middle, and a cochlea anterior. What is a labyrinth, and can I see one? This is a labyrinth, a snail. Can I see the cavity of this labyrinth? It is arranged. The osseous labyrinth is bony cavities in the petrous part of the temporal bone, formed of membranous labyrinth inside the bony labyrinth. This is the vestibule, the middle part, and this sac is the utricle. It is a membranous part and it is connected to the semicircular canals. And the part near the cochlea is the saccule. The saccule is connected to the ducts of the cochlea. Semicircular canals have dilatations. Each dilatation is called ampulla. We have hair cells in these ampullae. So the vestibule is an oval central portion of the bony labyrinth. It contains two sacs called a utricle and a saccule. Both are otolith organs. You will see what does that mean. And they are connected by a small duct. The utricle and saccules are not separated. They are connected by a small duct. Now, here's the vestibule. That's the utricle and that's the saccule. And this is the oval window where the foot of the stapes attaches. And when the foot of the stapes goes in, it creates a wave of fluid, and this wave of fluid must at some time must be dead. Therefore, it turns around and comes to the round window. The round window will bulge into the middle ear, and therefore the wave is killed. No wave anymore. This is the position of the vestibule connected to three bony semicircular canals, and they are approximately at right angles to each other. They are for linear acceleration equilibrium. The utricle of the vestibule is an otolith organ. It is the larger of the two sacs, and it registers acceleration in the horizontal plane. The vestibule has a saccule. It is also an otolith organ. It is smaller than the utricle, and it is next to the cochlea. Now, we have seen this information just a minute ago. Back to the CT scan. Here is the vestibule, because it is posterior to the cochlea. And this is one of the semicircular canals. This is the superior semicircular canals. اللي بده يطلع خليه يطلع. شايف فيها سي ار؟ شايف؟ Semicircular canals are posterior to the vestibule. Again, this is the vestibule, and the fluid in the inner ear is not staying all your life. It is drained to the subarachnoid space, and we produce a new perilymph and endolymph all the time. If you look at this image, we can see the foot of the stapes fitting the oval window, and this is the vestibule. When we talked about the utricle and the saccule, we said they are otolith organs. Now, what is an otolith organ? The utricle has one and the saccule has one. And there is a thickening. This red area is a thickening in the wall, and it is called the macula. And this is the macula of the utricle. Now, the macula has an otolithic membrane. This is the diagram of the otolith organ. It's made of hair cells. And supporting cells. These supporting cells will secrete a jelly material, a gelatinous matrix. And on top of the gelatinous matrix, there are calcium carbonate crystals. That's why it's called otolith organ. Otolith means a stone. The physiologist will tell you how these structures will work. So a macula is a small thickened region in the walls of the utricle and saccule, and they are perpendicular to one another. Depends on the position of the head. It consists of two kinds of cells, supporting cells and hair sensory receptors. There is a secretion of thick gelatinous glycoprotein layer by the supporting cells. It is called the otolith membrane. Otoliths are calcium carbonate crystals, and we have seen these. Now, in the utricle, the macula or the otolith organ is horizontal. In the saccule, the otolith organ is perpendicular. And this is a scanning electron microscope of the otolith, stone-like crystals. And this is how they work. Head forward or head backwards. Now we come to the cochlea. It is called bony spiral canal. Resembles a snail, and it makes 2.5 to 3 turns. Around what? Around a central bony core, which is called the modulus. Where is it in real life? In CT scan, this is the basal turn of the snail, and there is a central core of bone that is the modulus. You can see the shadow of the modulus. And then it is anterior to the vestibule. And the semicircular canals are posterior structures. This is the basal turn of the cochlea, and this is the modulus. Again, this is a closer image of the basal turn of the snail cochlea. This is the modulus. Another example of the cochlea. And that is the modulus. Here is a coronal CT scan showing the 2.5 turns of the cochlea. Again, it's in the petrous part of the temporal bone. You can see the 2.5 turns. So what is inside the bony labyrinth? Inside this cochlea, we can see this central pillar, which is called the modulus. And then we can see that's the modulus, and then we can see shelves inside the snail-like cochlea. We can see shelves. They are called laminae. And then there is a spiral cavity that turns around into this, around the modulus in top of the laminae. They are spiral-shaped lumen, and this is the shape of the lumen. The tip of the spiral shape is called helicotrema. We will see that in a moment. This is the shape of the cavity of the snail-like cochlea. That's the apex, and it is named as helicotrema. That's the basal turn that I showed you, the largest turn of the cochlea. What is the helicotrema? It is the apical end of the cochlea. It connects two cavities. Now, let's concentrate on this drawing. Here is the oval window attached to the stapes, and the ossicles will vibrate, and the foot of the stapes goes in, and it creates a wave in the perilymph. This wave is going to travel all over the place in the cave. And then the wave will turn back. When it turns back, it must reach a structure that will bulge into the middle ear so that it dies. It cannot recirculate again. That is the round window. Now, when we have a wave in the perilymph, the wave will make pressure on the membranous labyrinth of all structures and creates a wave in the endolymph. So we start with a wave in the perilymph and then a wave in the endolymph, and again it will end up dying at the oval window. This is the cochlea opened. This membranous part of the cochlea is called the cochlear duct, and if we look at a cross-section, what do we see? We see three canals. Scala vestibuli is the canal that receives the first wave of the perilymph. It turns around, reaches the top, and this is called scala vestibuli. Takes the wave from the perilymph, from the vestibule, and starts at the oval window. سكر التليفون يا باشا. When it turns around, the wave reaches the top of the cochlea. The top of the cochlea is called the helicotrema. Then it comes back. There is another canal inside the membranous cochlea. This is called scala media. It's in the middle between the upper one and the lower one. Now, this is called the cochlear duct, scala media is called the cochlear duct, and it's called scala media. It's a membranous tube, and it is continuation of all the membranous labyrinth, and it's filled with endolymph. And then scala tympani. When the wave is going towards the round window, it's going to die. The wave is going to die. So we have scala vestibuli, scala media, and then scala tympani. This is filled with perilymph. This is perilymph, and this is endolymph. Till this stage, it is all the structures are conducting the waves. Now we need receptors. Scala tympani is below the cochlear duct and ends at the oval window filled with perilymph, and the cochlea. All these are description of what we have just seen. Now, we need the hearing organ. The hearing organ is in the cochlear duct. It's in scala media. And here's a scanning electron microscope of the hearing organ of Corti. All receptors of the ear are hair cells. Now this is a histology of the organ of Corti. These hair cells are sitting on a membrane called basilar membrane, and there are two rows of hair cells. The outer one are arranged in 3 rows, and the inner ones are arranged in 1 row. And these hair cells are covered by a membrane called tectorial membrane. And the upper part of this canal is the vestibular membrane. Again, histological section. This is a scanning electron microscope of the two rows of the hair cells. The anterior group, outer hair cells, they're arranged in V-shaped structures, and the inner is 1 row. This is a scanning electron microscope of the outer hair cells, and this is the V-shape unit of inner hair cells. This is a diagram of outer hair cells and inner hair cells. These are the outer hair cells, and this is the single row of inner hair cells supported by supporting cells, and this is the organ of Corti. These are the components, and they are present in scala media. Scala media contains endolymph, which is colored blue. So the organ of Corti is in scala media. It is the heart of the cochlea, sits on top of basilar membrane and covered by tectorial membrane. When these hair cells are stimulated, they are connected to, again, same idea, the basilar membrane. Hair cells are about 16,000 of them. They are in 2 groups. inner cells, single row synapse with 90 to 95% of the first order neurons, and the outer cells are in 3 rows. And then going from these hair cells to the brain, the spiral organ of Corti is creating the Cochlear Nerve, and it starts with the spiral ganglia. Then it goes to the medulla, to the nuclei of Cochlear Nerve, and then to the superior olivary nucleus, inferior colliculus, and the medial geniculate body, and then to the temporal lobe primary auditory cortex. Then we come to the balancing process. That's utricle, this is the saccule. These are the membranous structures in the semicircular canals. These are the dilatations, the ampullae. The utricle is connected to the scala media of the cochlea. We have 3 semicircular canals, and there are ampullae at the base of these canals. And in the CT scan, just for curiosity, we can see the shadow of cross-section of the superior semicircular canals, and it is vertical, and we can see the whole of the lateral semicircular canal, which is horizontal, and we can see the posterior semicircular canals, which is vertical as well. Now, in the ampulla, we have the place where there are hair cells. It's called the copula. So this is the ampulla, the dilatation. We have the copula. The copula is gelatinous material, and the crista is the place where you find the hair cells, and depends on the turn of the head. These are the hair cells of the ampulla. Now the physiologist will tell you a lot about these things. So let's have a look at the vestibulocochlear nerve. Do you want a mind map or a PowerPoint? What do you want? الوقت ما بيسمح واحد منهم. Mind map. Okay. Let's start with cochlear nerve. The starting point, of course, is hair cells in the cochlea. And we know these informations covered by tectorial membrane, sitting on basement membrane, supporting cells, inner and outer, and they make the organ of Corti. Then the first order neuron is the spiral ganglia. Ganglia at the base of the lamina near the modulus, which is going to make the cochlear nerve. The cochlear nerve is going to join the vestibular and it enters the pons. And we have a dorsal nucleus and a ventral on both sides. The ventral is going to cross to the superior olivary nucleus. This is for localization of sounds, and it is also on the same side. So we know the sound is coming from right or left. Then the ventral, that's the ventral. The dorsal is going to enter a structure called trapezoid body. This is a complicated structure of fibers and nuclei. What comes out of the trapezoid body is lateral lemniscus, which is specialized for hearing and ends in the inferior colliculus, and then it goes to the medial geniculate body, internal capsule, and then acoustic radiation and cerebral cortex area 41 and 42. This is the summary of what happens to cochlear nerve. Now for the vestibular nerve, it is concerned with head movements and head position at rest. Head position at rest is detected by Utricle and Saccule, and head movements by semicircular canals, and the receptors are hair cells. These hair cells are connected to neurons of the vestibular ganglia, also called Scarpa's ganglia, and forms the vestibular nerve. The vestibular nerve will go into the vestibular nuclear complex. These are 4 nuclei: medial, lateral, superior, and inferior or descending. Now, the descending one is very well and richly connected to the cerebellum. Some people consider it as a small cerebellum. Fibers will go to the lateral vestibular nucleus, and the lateral vestibular nucleus will send uncrossed vestibulospinal tract for a reflex of extension. Then the superior one is going to be connected to trigeminothalamic tract, and it is concerned with eye movements, connected to the oculomotor, trochlear, and abducent. And the whole system ends up in the ventro-posterior thalamus. And then it goes to the vestibular area, which is not well identified, not very sure where it is. So this is a summary of the vestibulocochlear nerve. I want to show you سامعين زراعة القوقعة. زراعة القوقعة وين راحت؟ This child has a cochlear implant. Okay. يا ابني استريح برا واشرب مي وارتاح. خذ راحتك. Okay. I'm sure it is there. Anyway, it is a handful of instruments that will be, one part is put behind the ear, the other part is inserted under the skin, and then there is a wire. The wire is introduced into the middle ear. Okay, it goes into the round window and pushed into the turns of the cochlea. So this system will pick up the sounds and sends it into the cochlea. But what the patient hears is different from what we hear. It's a new language, and therefore this person has to be taught the new language that he is going to hear. Thank you very much.